Welcome to Black Nouveau. This is our edition for December. I'm Joanne Williams. As we move into this holiday season, we'll visit one of our favorite places, the home of James and Sandra English. We'll have a performance from some of the members of the cast of Black Nativity by Langston Hughes. And psychologist Dr. Ramel Smith will offer some tips for maintaining good mental health during what could be some stressful holiday times. We begin, though, with family pictures. Portraits by Black photographers of African-American families. The exhibit is on display at the Milwaukee Art Museum through January 20th, 2019. Liddy Collins pays a visit.
Hosting an exhibition of especially African-American photographers looking at the family and thinking about how the family has been central to African-American life since the civil rights era is a really important exhibition to have here in Milwaukee.
Hosting the Family Pictures exhibit on loan from the Columbia Museum of Art gave the Milwaukee Art Museum and the community an idea of what was missing from their American photography collection, which is representative of the 50s. This exhibit gives the museum a chance to show the full range of diverse history. Family Pictures offers a chance to view 11 different African-American photographers looking at different representations of family.
We're looking at families that artists were photographing in the 1950s and 60s in Harlem, but then we're also looking at queer communities and neighborhoods and people who have chosen their families or whose families have been sort of broken up in various ways. So I think having a range of ages is really important to really flesh out the idea of what family means and has meant historically.
You can see and hear the differences in the photographers' presentations.
Alice Booth, Carrie May, Merle Jr., John Gillette, Evangeline White, Joseph.
Some of the well-known photographers in the exhibit are Gordon Parks, Carrie Mae Weems, LaToya Ruby Frazier, Lyle Ashton Harris, with emerging photographers like John Edmond.
So I love the work of Dina Lawson. I think she's a really important contemporary artist. She recently had a profile in the New Yorker written by Zadie Smith, which is really interesting and I recommend people looking into. But she's an artist who's interested in the African diaspora, so she traces back histories of where people have come from. And these pictures were made in Soweto, South Africa. And you can see her interest in the way people live their lives and structure their kind of domestic spaces. So I also really think the work of Roy de Carava is some of the most important in the history of photography. He was the first African-American artist to win a Guggenheim Fellowship in 1952, and he used the money to make photographs in Harlem. And he was interested in making pictures that would kind of refute some of the stereotypical pictures made by mostly white outsiders coming to photograph in Harlem. You also have to get really close to the picture to even be able to see your face and to take in all of the details. And so by printing the pictures this dark, he was really asking his audiences to get closer to the picture, to slow down and spend some time looking at the details. And I think that makes his work important not only in the history of photography, but in the history of art.
And then there is a Henry Clay Anderson picture taken in the 50s of middle-class African Americans.
But it's these details that I think really make the pictures really wonderful. And you can see the cake is even sort of melting from the heat. But these really wonderful pictures of middle-class African American life in the 1950s that we wouldn't get to see otherwise.
There is a range of photography and video to be seen in this exhibit, from small black and white photographs taken in Harlem in the 50s to the contemporary. You'll have to slow down to view the details captured in some of the images. This exhibit will make you think about all the ways in which family is an important part of the structure of our lives. There is an intergenerational range of photographers in this exhibit.
To show not only how family life has evolved over time, but also how the notion of family has changed. So we're looking at families that artists were photographing in the 1950s and 60s in Harlem, but then we're also looking at queer communities and neighborhoods. I can't emphasize enough how important it is that museums are showing works by a diverse range of artists, including African-American artists, Native American artists, in order to represent the various histories that are important in our culture. My hope is that when people come to see this exhibition, it sparks them to think about their own family pictures and to think about what making a picture of your family means and why it's important to consider how artists might do that differently and what they're trying to represent.
Joseph, I think my time's most come. My way is cloudy. My way is cloudy. My way is cloudy. Send one angel down. My way is cloudy. It's cloudy. My way is cloudy. Send one angel down.
There's a fire in the east, there's a fire in the west. Send one angel down. There's a fire among all the Methodists. Send one angel down, 'cause my way is cloudy. My way is cloudy. My way is cloudy. Send one angel down.
Yes, my way is cloudy. My way is cloudy. My way is cloudy. Oh, send one angel down. Satan is mad, and I'm glad he missed the soul he thought he had. Send one angel down. This is the year of Jubilee. The Lord has come to set us free. Send one angel down. My way is cloudy. My way is cloudy. My way is cloudy.
Send one angel down. My way. Send one angel down,
send it down, send it down.
That was DeMonte Henning and Natalie Harris from the cast of Black Nativity by Langston Hughes. They were accompanied on the piano by the show's music director, Antoine Reynolds. The musical is at the Marcus Center's Wilson Theater in Vogel Hall from December 7th through the 16th. And joining us is director Malkia Stampley of Black Nativity.
Hello.
Hi. How many times have you directed this play?
This is my third production, my third time directing Black Nativity.
What? Do you change anything from year to year?
I do. I can't leave anything alone. You know, you work on it, and the first year you think, okay, this is great, and then the second year I keep asking myself, how can I make it better? How can I make it more relevant? What can I do? And then each year when we have different cast members joining us, you also want to find different ways to feature them as well. So it's not the same show.
So what kind of things do you tweak when you look at the script anew?
Sure. Well, I changed the roles around a little bit, so different actors are playing different roles than they did the year before. And then also our music might change a little bit. And then we have a prologue each year where it's my artistic statement, I like to call it, where I take on a social issue and I just plant a seed to the audience and something that can grow maybe after the show. The first year we tackled the unrest in Sherman Park, and last year Colin Kaepernick and gun violence, and this year the Me Too movement it resonated with me and so many others, and so I just want to pay some honor to our Black Girl Magic, our Black Girls with Magic, and to the Me Too movement and those on the front line.
Now I've seen the show, let's see, 2 years.
Okay.
So I'll see it again. So this will be the third year.
Awesome.
Is there any change in the music? Will I hear new songs?
You might hear one or two new songs, and I think with the role assignments changing, you'll hear different approaches to some of your favorite songs.
Why do you think Black Nativity is important to do every year?
Oh, because it's a tradition. Christmas is a tradition. Our families get together. We celebrate the holiday with food and presents and just getting together. And I think what better way to do that with adding the arts to that as well. It's something where we can come together as a community in our city and celebrate the birth of Christ, celebrate the arts during this time of the year. And with gospel music and with local artists, I think it's something that people look forward to every year. And so we want to make sure that they have that opportunity.
That's December 7th through the 16th.
Yes.
Black Nativity, the third annual. I know we'll love it. Thanks, Melkia.
Thank you so much.
This holiday season is supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, but for many people that is not the case. Some people may feel increased financial burdens. Others feel a heightened sense of loneliness if they aren't with loved ones. Dr. Ramil Smith is here to give us some tips for practicing good mental health during this time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So why are people so stressed out this time of the year?
There's a lot of reasons why people can be stressed, but most of it is because of anticipation and expectations that they think they're supposed to have from everybody else, trying to keep up with the Joneses. I need to have this, I need to buy this. So it's usually about things that really don't even matter most of the time.
Do men of color have a heightened sense of stress this time of the year?
Well, you know what, that's a difficult thing to say. Men of color definitely have a heightened sense of stress at this time, but to say more than anybody else, I think it's difficult because this is just that period of time where a lot of people go through the gambit of emotions, but specifically with men of color, when we think about the holiday seasons, we kind of start to equate that with finances. And then when we talk about underemployment, unemployment, the stress of trying to keep up, that can cause a lot more pressure. Not being at home with the family, not having your family with you, things of that nature.
What should people do, if men or women do, if they start to feel a heightened sense of stress?
Well, the first thing is you want to avoid the stress, remove what's causing you the stress if possible. Mm-hmm. So some things cause a stress, and we say, you know what, if I just remove this from my life, I remove some of the problems. But some things you can't remove, and you say what it is. So it's that old saying, let me control the things I can control, the things I can't. I just have to keep pushing forward too. So you said, what's the biggest thing you can do? What you want to do is do things that bring you pleasure. So when you want to balance it, I'm being stressful here. So what do I have to do? I have to make a concerted effort to do things that make me feel good.
Is there a difference between good and bad stress? And if so, how do you balance those things out?
Well, yeah, the bad stress is anything that makes you feel negative, that things that cause your blood pressure to rise, the things that make you upset, that makes you angry. When we talk about good stress, that's like, hey, you know what? Sometimes we complain about stuff that's beautiful stress. I got to feed a family of 54, and that's a blessing in disguise. So what we want to do is to take away the stress and to realize the beauty inside of it. So sometimes our good stress, we can flip it to something negative. So we just have to keep things in perspective.
So I read this story that said suicide rates are usually higher this time of the year. Is there something we could do, like if we see a loved one going through some problems, to sort of get to talking about that?
Yeah, you know what? The main thing when we started to talk about suicide is people feel a sense of hopelessness. I don't think tomorrow can be better than today. So what we want to do is wrap our loves around our loved ones, specifically if we know that they're going through something specifically, but also tell people, wrap your arms around that person who seems strong, who seem like they got it going on, because oftentimes it's the strongest people that give off the front that need that hug, that need that love. So just recognize we all go through down times, and to extend that helping hand of love to everyone.
How do you bring up that conversation? Because that could be a difficult one to say, yeah, I know you're having some problems, but how do you get people to open up? What do you do?
Well, you know, we just had to be honest, because you know what's even more difficult is to have to talk about a death of a suicide. So you said, let's talk about it on the front end. Say, I'm seeing some things that don't look right, that don't look good. I'm worried, I'm concerned. If it's all good, let me know, and then we can smile and laugh about it. But if it's not, no, you're not alone, and whatever I can do to help, I'm going to do. And those things I can't, we're going to gather those other resources, whether it's other people, other institutions, or whatnot. We're going to make sure that we bombard you with these things so you know that you love and you feel secure.
When it comes to children, I know that they deal with stress too.
Yes.
What kind of stress do they deal with this time of the year?
Well, I mean, you know, you got to think about it. What's the biggest thing with children? They're in school most of the time. So what? It's bullying. It's about self-esteem. It's about all of these things that we sometimes kind of shirk off as little children. But there's been children as young as 6 to commit suicide. And know that they did it. So parents can never look at it and say, oh, that's a small depression. No, what we want to do is to talk about their issues, see exactly what they were. And as a good parent, what we want to do is talk. And we want to look and observe. And when we start to see those changes, that's when we make sure we go in even heavier.
Now, you talked about the changes. What kind of changes should a parent or a guardian notice in a kid, especially when they start acting different?
Well, you want to look at the changes from their personality, because if they're quiet now, you know, they're very loud, they're very aggressive. When they was very, you know, docile before, if this is a person who was very meticulous and now their room looks like a mess, if this is a person who you say, you know what, it's just something that about them that don't seem right, I can't put my hand on it, that's where we need to go touch. And it's very difficult sometimes in speaking with our children, because it's a language that they speak on their own. So it's just sometimes having that inner vibe, and sometimes having friends and loved ones to be able to pull our coattails can help us as parents.
This is a question that bothers me. Should we start looking at our kids' social media to see, you know, snooping around to see if they have some problems that they could bring to us, or should we stay away from that and give them their freedom?
Well, this is what you want to say. It's never snooping with your children. It's always about being observant and loving them. Now, what you say is absolutely perfect. You want to be able to balance privacy, but also with the knowledge of a parent. And there's some things you can see on social media that's absolutely alarming. But also as parents, we don't want to become those helicopter parents. We want to make sure we give our children room to grow and even to make mistakes, because that's how we grow. We can't protect them from everything. And sometimes it's a tough kind of distant love we have to get them. But when you start saying to observe, we want to make sure that we're observant on everything. So that's whether it's talking to teachers, whether it's talking to friends, community members, coaches that they're involved with. You can never be too nosy when it comes to your child.
When should we bring in the professional to come in and help?
Well, you should bring in a professional before you think you need a professional. See, so many times in mental health, we do things from a reactive, you know, a visceral kickstand response. What you want to do is start talking to somebody before you need to. And now you've established a relationship. They've seen you in your good times. So when something starts to go awry, you have somebody there who they already trust, who there's already confidence, and who you can get into immediately.
So those are great ideas. Last question for you. Does culture make a difference? Should we seek out someone that looks like us to talk to, or does that even matter?
Well, culture makes a difference in this standpoint. You want somebody who can relate to you, who can feel you. And in a society that's as divisive as ours, sometimes people who look different than you have different experiences, so it's difficult to relate. So it's not necessarily the color or the gender, but it's, can I relate to what you're going on? Can I empathize with you? And sometimes when we come from a different space, we can come from a hegemonic state of thinking that doesn't allow us to relate to the person as well.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
back to when I was growing up. Black is beautiful.
I like to look at things that look like me.
Meet James and Sandra English, who love decorating their homes for Christmas, and even more so, collecting Christmas decorations that reflect their passion for Blackness at Christmas time. I see the moving couple back there. I see the angel who's slightly moving. And then there's Dancing Santa, one of their most prized pieces.
The doll that you see hanging here, I think we got her in New Orleans. And we have a couple of Santa heads back here that I really like. And we've had those for quite a while.
This collecting of African-American Christmas ornaments started as an adventure for educator James English. His wife became hooked and took it over. He has strong feelings on why he started his family's collection.
I wanted to have my house looking like the house that I grew up in Philadelphia. To see people like me of color in my house and not pieces that were just generic. I mean, I've been around the world in the Air Force, and I've seen houses and friends of mine, and they had no black Santas in their houses. So why should I have a white Santa in mine? So then when I saw these different Santas throughout my trips, I said, well, this will work. And it just so happened I had a wife that was very supportive.
When you're out and about and you see Christmas stuff, what don't you see?
I don't see a lot of African American stuff. I look through everything there just hoping that I would find just one piece. And usually I would find just one.
When we went to Indianapolis, Circle City Classic, went to the store in the mall, and she was just amazed at what was there.
We saw this one tree that was decorated with a lot of animals from Africa. I think we pretty much bought everything on the tree. So that was, I think, pretty much our first adventure in collecting a lot of this stuff.
So the adventure began, hunting to acquire culturally sensitive Christmas ornaments. But on returning home, there were few to none stores that featured their wares to African Americans. Thus, the traveling started.
It's taken us from state to state. We've gone to New Orleans, to Indianapolis, to Texas, to South Carolina, all over.
One of their hot spots for finding pieces have been the Big Easy, New Orleans.
They have, because of the diversity that goes with that city, just to name New Orleans. I mean, some of the best pieces that we've got were from New Orleans, or they were very helpful in ordering a piece if it was out of stock.
They've also gotten pieces from Jamaica.
Mostly we go around Thanksgiving time. A lot of people are putting out their Christmas stuff then, so we would see a lot of things that we like then, so we get them.
The internet has been a great aid for them and probably others who collect.
And as I went on to the internet over the years, it's just so much stuff out there that come Christmas time, they're all sold out on the internet, all the good pieces. So you have to wait till next year. So we're like always a year behind on certain pieces.
Suggestion for those who want to start collecting and putting together their own culturally sensitive Christmas home.
I would tell them that they have to, first of all, be ready to travel, because you're not going to find very much here.
Probably try to get on Facebook, Twitter, I'm pretty sure there's someone out there that has groups for Christmas. Okay, where did you get this stuff? Let's go trade here flea markets.
Keeping the wife happy, they have scoured every nook and cranny to find more African-American figurines, have gotten to a point that
We have just too many, but there's never enough for her.
Our next edition will air on Thursday, January 3rd, 2019, at our new time, 7:30 p.m., right here on Channel 10. Starting in January, all of the Milwaukee Presents programs will air on Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. We'd like to send a belated happy 30th anniversary to the Wisconsin Black Historical Society and Museum and its founder, Claiborne Benson III. And remember, Kwanzaa celebrations start there on December 26th. We want to show you the newest addition to the Black Nouveau family. She joined us on November 10th. The Emmy Award in the Public Affairs Program category went to Crossing the Bridge, a Black Nouveau special. And as we close out this year, we'd like to extend to you and your family our wish for a joyful and blessed holiday season, and of course, a happy and prosperous new year. I'm Joanne Williams. Thanks for watching.